Hi everyone, I am creating a series to let you know about Azure Monitor and all other AIOps capabilities which are present here in the Azure Monitor. In this video, I will be giving you explanation about what is Azure Monitor, high-level architecture, and in the high-level architecture, I have covered the basic diagram of Azure Monitor, what all component, how the data flows from data source to consumption, and the basic components present here in the Azure Monitor. We'll start with the documentation. What is Azure Monitor? So it is a hybrid monitoring solution for collecting, analyzing, responding to your monitoring data from environment. So what is hybrid here? Hybrid means it can monitor your on-premises as well as cloud data. And not only Azure cloud, it can collect data from your AWS, Google Cloud as well. The second point here is it helps you to understand how your applications are performing and allows you to manually or through any program to respond your system events. So Azure Monitor also helps you to understand the system health, whether it is your whether it is your virtual machine health, network application health, your web application health, or any other sort of data which is there in Azure Monitor, which we can monitor through Azure Monitor. Here is you can also integrate your Azure Monitor with the Microsoft and non-Microsoft tool. So not only Azure Monitor compatible with its own Microsoft tools, but you can integrate it with non-Microsoft tool as well, which I'll cover later in this video. So basically, if I sum up everything here, Azure Monitor is your comprehensive monitoring solution for collecting, analyzing, and responding to monitoring data from your cloud and on-premises environment. So this is basically the overview of your Azure Monitor. What is Azure Monitor? Now, if I talk about the high-level architecture, so this is basically an image, the diagram of the Azure Monitor. I'll cover later in this video. First, let me just give you the brief idea, how many things, how many components or infrastructure, how many type of infrastructure that we can monitor through Azure. Roughly, we can monitor each and everything through Azure Monitor, but still they have given a list of type of resources in Azure that or in other cloud or on premises that we can monitor through Azure Monitor. So it all starts with the application. If you have any sort of application that we can monitor through Azure Monitor, then virtual machines are there. Virtual machine is your Windows Linux servers. Guest operating system. So guest operating system is something which is not part of the Azure Monitor. You are bringing in your own customized operating system that also we can monitor through Azure Monitor. Now containerize, if you are using containerized environment, so you can monitor container including Prometheus matrices. Database is also included in the Azure Monitor compatibility. Security events in combination with Azure Sentinel. If you have the Azure Sentinel and you want to monitor some critical your security alerts, so we can monitor, we can integrate Azure Sentinel with Azure Monitor, then we can create alert or take action on based on the severity or type of the event which we are receiving through Azure Sentinel. Networking event, any sort of networking event that we can monitor through Azure monitoring tool here. It is basically, it will monitor the health of your network devices, any event which is getting generated through your network devices, we can monitor them through Azure Monitor. Custom sources also. Custom sources basically any source which is not there in the Azure or through API, you have your own application running on any other on-premises or any other cloud. So through API, we can integrate it with the Azure Monitor and we can enable the monitoring for it. Now also there is something more. You can export monitoring data from Azure Monitor to other monitoring system. Like if you want to integrate, now if you want to integrate your Azure Monitor with any third-party application like ITSM ticketing tool, be it Jira or ServiceNow, so you can integrate Azure Monitor with third-party tool. There you can export your monitoring data and take relevant action out of it, like you want to create a ticket or you want to, and the second bullet point here is for the ticketing and, sorry, first bullet point here is for the third-party open source monitoring tool and visualization tool. So any, like if you want to integrate your monitoring tool, if you want to send your data for visualization purpose, so you can also integrate Azure Monitor with your Grafana as well. And then the second bullet point here is ITSM tool system. So ITSM basically your ticketing tool. Okay. So this is a brief introduction about what is Azure Monitor and the high-level architecture. This is all about the documentation purpose. Now let's look into the image. Okay, so this is a rough, a standard diagram, not rough, basically a standard diagram provided by Azure Monitor itself. So it is all, if you look at the image, it is divided into three parts. Started with the data source, then go for the data platform, and third one is the consumption. So what is data source here? So data source are the type of the resource that are being monitored. Now, after once the data is been collected, it is collected and routed to the data platform, which is your this part, matrices, logs, traces, and changes. And the data platform basically stores the collecting monitoring data, and it is basically a core of the Azure Monitor, and it store data. It has the storage platform. It is a storage platform for your matrices, log, traces, and changes. Basically, for all monitoring tool, if you see, there are as a part of the observability, they all comes with the matrix, logs, and traces. But a fourth pillar also they have added as it changes. Okay, so this is about the data platform here. Now let's talk about the consumption. Consumption is how your system is consuming the events and how it is reacting on it. Okay, so consumption is how your data is getting consumed within Azure Monitor to provide you actionable insight, to visualize your data, to do the analysis of your data, and to respond on your monitoring data. So there is one more component here, which is the integration. So integration is, suppose you want to integrate any event hub, any other third-party monitoring tool for which you want to send the data that we discuss about Azure Sentinel. Okay, so that we also can integrate. You want to integrate Azure storages, managed partner. Managed partner here is like Grafana is managed partner here. Prometheus is also a managed partner here. So that also we can integrate through Azure Monitor. Import and export of the API. Yes, if you have any custom sources or any API which can talk to Azure Monitor, that also is possible as a part of the integration. Logic app functions, these are the inbuilt here in the Azure cloud, that also can be part of the integration of the Azure Monitor. Then the last two are the Azure DevOps and GitHubs. So this is a standard diagram. A lot of more things are available here in Azure Monitor capacity that we can integrate and work on the data. Okay, so I'll give you more information about the data sources. What is app workload, infrastructure, Azure platform, and the custom resources. So apps and workload here is custom applications or infrastructure as a service workload. That's how I have divided app and workload here. Infrastructure is all about your container and the operating system. Platform is all about your Azure resources, any subscription, Azure subscription that you want to monitor, or any Azure tenants. Custom sources are your custom sources. As we discussed, any custom solution that you have built in your repository, in your own repository, or in your own premises, that we can integrate with, that we can present as a data source here. Now, let's talk about the data collection and routing. So data collection and routing, basically, it all happens between data source and data platform. So it's all about, you can deploy your agents to collect the data on servers, on guest operating system, for hybrid virtual machines. And there are zero configuration data collection and routing. Zero configuration data collection and routing means data is automatically sent to the sent to like matrices, logs, and traces. For virtual machines, it is there. For zero configuration, you don't need to any other services to get the data in matrices. So this is all about the zero configuration. And also you can use Azure Monitor REST APIs for the log injection, for log ingestion API in Azure Monitor. So it will let you send data to a log analytics workspace in Azure Monitor logs. So it's all about the data collection and routing. Now I'll explain you about the data platform. What is data platform? So basically Azure Monitor stores data in four type of data stores. Started with matrices, then logs, traces, and changes. Observability comes with three pillars: matrices, logs, and traces, but they have added one more pillar, which is the changes here. Now, what is matrice here? Matrices are basically a numeric value that describe the status of your system at a particular point of time. Like what was the CPU usage, what was your disk utilization, what was the process state at that particular time. So that this all comes under Azure matrices. Now, Azure Monitor log. What is log? Azure Monitor log. So logs are basically recorded system events. Log can contain different type of data, be structure or free form text. So this and also they contain a timestamp. So this is all about the Azure Monitor log. Okay, so if we are monitoring Azure Monitor logs, so that will come under this data storage, data platform. Now traces. Traces are basically your path. It will give you the entire path of your request as it travels to the different services and the component. End-to-end travel. It will show you how your system was behaving when the request was, how your system was behaving in the traces. Okay, and the changes. Now the fourth pillar here is the changes. Changes are a series of events in your application and resources. You can it's like track and store when you use the change analysis services. Basically, it uses as your resource graph as it store change analysis. Okay, so this all about the data platform here in the Azure Monitor. Now let's talk about the consumption. Consumption is basically where your actual data is being consumed for some meaningful values, whether you want to have whether you want to monitor your application inside. So data will get collected from data sources, then it come for the data platform, and then data platform will further sends to the whether you want to have an insight detail of your application or your container or your virtual machine, so that you can monitor through insight. Then visualization, if you want to visualize your data in terms of pie chart, bars, or in a time series data, so you can use Power BI, Grafana, dashboard, workbooks. So these four tools are available, features are available in Azure Monitor. Analysis, if you want to do the analysis of your data, so whether you want to see like within a time how the system was responding, what was the metrics for your C drive, D drive, for your particular process, for CPU utilization, memory utilization. The same here is for the log analysis. For the log analysis, in the log you can see how the log was behaving, how the system was behaving in the through the logs. You can analyze that. Then the third one is the change analysis. It is a subscription level as your resource. That provider basically check resource changes in the subscription and provides data for diagnostic tool to help user understand what changes might have caused the issue. So basically it keeps track of all the changes whatsoever is happening in your Azure platform. Now the fourth one here is the respond. It is an effect, I would say it is an effective monitoring solution that proactively respond to the critical events without need of the individual or team to notice the issue. So here comes the AI ops. So in case system sees any anomalies, so if we are leveraging the AI ops capability here in the Azure Monitor, it will help you to diagnose the issue much deeper, and also you can take an action without action from any individual or any resource intervention is required. Okay, so alerts and action as part of it, like as soon as there is an alert you can trigger an action on it. Suppose if I give you an example, your C drive is full, your any mount point is full, so you can have an automated action against that alert to remove garbage value from your drive, from your memory, from your storage. Okay, so this is all about the alert and action on auto scale. Auto scale is also possible. Auto scale is all about suppose it will allow you basically to dynamically control the number of resources running to handle the load on your application. So auto scale, basically if you receive an event which says your system is over capacity and it will be unable to handle the load of the user or the application, so auto scale will help you to scale out your machines. Scale out means it will add new number of machines, so to distribute the load evenly throughout the platform. Okay, so this is all about your consumption. So integration is all about like event hubs. If I talk about any streaming platform or event ingestion services, we can integrate with Azure Monitor. Storages, basically your Azure storages uh, for monitoring purpose, the managed partners are here Azure hosted version of their product, which is your Prometheus and your Grafana also there. APIs, you can have the API integration. Logic App is inbuilt in Azure, which is basically to automate the task and integrate your system with other services based on the event. And it is basically a complete UI based coding platform. So in case you have one event based on that event, you want to make changes in some other services of Azure platform. So you can make a use of the Azure Logic app here. Now the Azure function, it is similar to the Logic apps. Azure function basically gives you the ability to pre-process and post-process monitoring data and perform complex action beyond the scope of the typical Azure Monitor alerts. We'll cover later on what is Azure function here. And then the last one is the Azure DevOps and the GitHub. So you can monitor, you can integrate your Azure DevOps and GitHub also with the with your Azure Monitor. Okay, guys. So that's all about an overview about your Azure Monitor. What is Azure Monitor high-level architecture? In my next video, I'll be working on. I'll tell you. Just give me a moment. What you can monitor and how do you collect your data. Okay, so in my next video, so this all will go with starting the first point I have covered here in this video, what is Azure Monitor. The next video will be on what can you monitor through Azure monitoring and how do you collect the data. And then after these two topics, I'll be working on the real-time use cases, like how you can monitor your application, virtual machine, containers, your Kubernetes cluster, and also multi-cloud monitoring. And then we will be working on like your configuration data collection, working on the AI ops, Grafana, and lot more things other. Okay. So that's all about my very first video, guys. Thanks for watching my video.